Hey guys, I'm Jackie Brubaker. I'm an author, producer, 2-time Emmy Award winner, and host of That Girl the Podcast. Each week, I bring on inspiring people and stories to help you become that girl or that guy in your life. That Girl the Podcast is based on the romantic comedy That Girl a Novel, which is now available as a podcast to listen to. Listen to each chapter about finding yourself and adulting in LA. Find That Girl a Novel everywhere you listen to your podcasts. You can also find it on Amazon to buy the Kindle or paperback of. For more, find us at thatgirlthepodcast.com and follow us on Instagram at thatgirlthepodcast and our Patreon page. Welcome, Stephanie Hamadto, to That Girl the Podcast. I am so glad to have you back. Stephanie is one of my dearest friends, and we talk all about all of the things all the time. And I'm excited to have you on today to talk about basically leaving situations that are not serving you anymore. And you have some experience with this. You had a big year this year and it's still going, lots of good stuff, lots of stuff you had to say goodbye to. So we're really going to focus on that. So I always like to let people introduce themselves because they can do a better job than I can. So go ahead and just in brief, tell people who you are.
Well, hi, I'm Stephanie Hamadto. Thank you, Jackie, so much for having me on again. I always have such a good time doing our chats and talking about all sorts of different things. I think last time we talked about body positivity, which is still really close to my heart. And as you mentioned, this last year I've gone through some major transitions. So I thought might as well come and speak to some of that because I'm sure there's people out there that are going through their own hard stuff. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is when people are in a situation that is no longer serving them, whether it's a work situation, a romantic relationship, living somewhere, whatever it is, it could be anything. It could be a spiritual belief. It could be a way of life, right? And it's just not working for them anymore. I think the first thing people naturally feel is, well, I can't leave, or I can't leave because of all of these excuses. So let's start there with what you've been through. How did that process start for you?
So I think what you're speaking to is, as humans, once we get used to anything, there is a ton of fear behind leaving it, or, the fear of the unknown. If I were to walk away from this job or this relationship or this family or whatever it is, there's a ton of fear about what that's going to look like on the other side. And unfortunately, most of us tend to focus more on the fear than we do on the possibilities. And so I found myself in a point in my marriage, and I'm sure my ex would also say the same, that we just got to a point that it was no longer working. It was no longer serving our greatest and highest good. It was no longer healthy for us or for the kids. And that's a really, really hard place to be, especially when you do have small children, because there is the desire to keep your family together and to have the white picket fence with the mom and the dad all under one roof. And society has their, stigmas about that. And so it's a hard place to be in to begin with. And I'm not advocating for anyone to just give up and not try. And, things get hard, so you throw in the towel. That's not it at all. Mm-hmm. I advocate for try absolutely everything you can. Use all your resources. So do the therapy, do the date nights, do all the things you can think of, like exercise all of your resources. And when it still isn't working and, it's no longer serving your greatest and highest good, then you really have to look at it. And like you said, it could be a job, it could be any kind of relationship or any kind of lifestyle that you're thinking about leaving behind. So some of the fears that would keep me stuck or, make the decision harder to make would be, the financial fear. Like, what is this going to look like if I have to do it on my own? Like, what is it going to look like if I have to pay for all of, everything again, on my own, by myself? There's a ton of fear around that. There's fear about the future. If we're not investing together and things like that. Like, what is my financial future going to look like? And whatnot. And so I think finances is going to be a major fear that comes up for people in most situations that they're thinking about leaving behind. Mm-hmm. Also, the fear of, and I know this sounds like less than, but like as a human, we do crave connection and love and all of those things. And so finding myself as a 36-year-old mother of 2 and a bonus child, there's that fear of like, well, am I even dateable? Like, is anybody going to ever want to date me again? Like, I don't know. Mm-hmm. The last time I dated was in my mid-20s, and that was very different, So of course, as a woman, as a human, like there's that insecurity that can come up and, again, keep you kind of afraid of the unknown. Like, what if I'm just going to be single forever? Which, by the way, there's no problem with that. But
yes, that's very true. I'm living proof that you can live and still be single and quite happy.
Yes, exactly. Right. But having been used to being in a relationship, and then, I do think on some level, there's that desire for human connection and love and all of that stuff. It can be something, maybe not the forefront of the mind, but something that's back there, right? Like, what is that going to look like? The fear of being a single mom, am I going to be a good enough mom? Like, are the kids going to be totally screwed up? All of those things kind of play a factor. So when we speak about the fear, I think what I always come back to, and like I've talked about this in other kind of coaching and other arenas or other like situations, but what it always comes down to is like, there's always like the worst case scenario and the best case scenario. And typically when you actually get to the other side of whatever the risk is that you're taking, both of those things tend to not be 100% what happens. What happens tends to be somewhere in the middle. And a lot of the really, really hard stuff that you think you're going to have to face end up being not so hard, or there's solutions to them, or like the right thing comes and solves the problem or whatever. In my case, like I would say when it comes to some of the just logistics of doing things on my own, I've had friends just offer to help in like incredible ways. And so my first recommendation would be like, obviously find yourself great friends. Jackie is one of my really good friends. Like, she's always offered to help me with anything. And my friend Chris right now, because I have the dog full time, my friend Chris is coming and helping me with my dog on the days that I work, because I'm like, how am I going to juggle all these things? So the universe, I find, will rise to meet you like wherever you are. So I think the hard part is not knowing how the universe is going to rise to meet you. And so, we get stuck in but what about this? But what about this? What about this? And we just don't see a solution to those things. But like I said, I think once you get on the other side of the hump, the right things will come and find you,
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that obviously all of that is true. And I can just hear, people thinking, okay, yeah, but like, so here's something that someone said to me the other day, right? Is that, I love New York. There's a lot of things I do that are in New York. And they're like, you should just move to New York. And I'm like, you're so cute. Like, that's so cute. Like, I can't just move to one of the most expensive places to live on the planet without some like stability and some like real roots that I could actually put down. And, we do hear of this, like, oh, we'll just jump in the nutshell up here. And that actually can happen. That is true. But let's just say you're a little bit farther into your life and you've, established roots, and you're like, no, but I have a job and I have a life. I've created a life wherever I am, in whatever the context is, whether you're moving or a marriage or a job or whatever. It's like you have created a home. And so, I can hear people saying, well, I can't just like, I can't leave the job because I make this much money and like it's hard, like it's a bad economy. All of those excuses start to play in. I'm looking for what your answer is of just how do you get over those excuses so that you can actually start, I would say start baby stepping, just baby stepping things. But, some people are like, no, I'm just going to like full throttle, go into like this brand new thing and throw caution to the wind. So let's talk about like baby stepping and those excuses versus that full throttle.
Yeah, well, I think that there has to be a little bit of a balance. So, like, I'm definitely the type of person that has no problem jumping and trusting that the universe will catch me, right? But that having been said, I'm also a planner. I also do a lot of research. I'm resourceful, and so I know that I'm not just like, okay, the universe is going to catch me. All I have to do is sit back and drink wine and sleep all day. Like,
I mean,
no,
that
like
sounds great though.
I mean, not a bad life, but no, seriously, like, I think it's important to meet the road halfway. So whatever it is, what, like you were saying about career and finances, and I'm going to quit my job and do my passion. That's great. But like my recommendation is make sure that your passion and your purpose or whatever you're going for has developed to the point that it can sustain your life minus your stable paycheck or whatever it is that you're leaving behind. So I think the analogy that I've heard on this is like, if you consider your passion or your new venture, whatever it is like an infant, you wouldn't expect the infant to take care of the whole household, right? Like you wouldn't expect the infant to like do laundry and pay the bills and you would let it like slowly, gradually mature till it gets to the point that it can take on more responsibility. So if you're talking about leaving behind a career for something new, you just want to make sure that you've developed that thing enough before totally letting go of the old thing. Now, that having been said, when we're talking about toxic relationships, toxic jobs, things like that, sometimes there's that gray area where you're like, I really need to get out of this place. And so I would say do everything you can to find the next thing that'll support you while you get out of that bad situation. Ideally, something that you think is going to have longevity, that you can be happy at for a long time. But, you do sometimes get into a place where you're like, I just have to leave this thing. And if you just have to leave this thing, then find the next thing that can at least bridge the gap till you find your long-term situation.
Absolutely. Because it is different if we're talking about a toxic situation, a relationship, a job. I've been in both before, and I have found that the longer you stay in a toxic relationship or job situation, the harder it gets to leave because you get really used to the toxicity and you're like, oh, I can put up with this. I can put up with this. I'm putting up with it. And then you put up with so much that by the time that you finally leave, however that happens, whether it's like the last straw or whatever it is, once you get some distance, you just see how toxic it really was and how much you allowed to happen little by little by little. So I absolutely agree. Like if there's, so like when I left a toxic relationship, the only like truly toxic one, I did plan. And I know a lot of women who have planned. They've just been like, I'm going to save a lot of money and then I'm going to go. And that's exactly what I did. But I've talked about this on other podcasts with money. You've got to be really careful with that, because if you do get into a mindset of like, I'm going to save, it becomes addictive, or at least it did for me, and it could for some people. So don't stay in a toxic situation if you have found some kind of a loophole to make it okay. So like in my version, I was like, oh, I found a loophole because I can like split everything with him and I can save more money. So I'll just keep him here longer because now I'm addicted to like saving money. So don't do that.
Well, I think this comes down to having good boundaries, not only with the people around us, but also with ourselves. So like if you find yourself in a situation like that, like a toxic relationship or job or whatever it is, one of the best things to do while you're working on it, trying to make the job work, trying to make the relationship work, whatever it is to give yourself clear guidelines about how much time are you actually willing to give to the possibility of things getting better, right? So like you might be trying to work things out with your boss or with your husband or wife or girlfriend or whatever. And that's great. But you have to have like, again, boundaries with yourself. Like how long are you willing to stay in this environment before you call it? And so when you speak to like getting too comfortable, like, oh, well, as long as I stay, I can keep saving all this money and I can, you can keep doing that indefinitely. Like, I mean, how many relationships do we know that go on for decades because it's like, they don't want to give up their tennis or they don't want to get, you know what I mean? Like there's always going to be something they're like, oh, but there's this like a couple things that are really fun or really comfortable. So I want to stay.
Right. Well, in relationships, I was going to say in relationships too, you get very connected to the image of what you are as a couple, and that's hard to leave.
Yeah. Totally. Especially in like family dynamic, there's the whole family unit, so it's like hard you almost have to mourn twice. Like you have to mourn the loss of your romantic relationship, and then you have to mourn the loss of like your family unit. And, which is, I'm going to come back around to that point when we talk about limiting beliefs, but it is a hard thing to mourn. And I don't want to paint the rosy picture that like, oh, our marriage ended and I'm happier than ever. Like I am very happy and I'm in a good place, but have I ugly cried in the shower? Abso-fucking-lutely. Like I am a human being. I'm going to have emotions that come up that are hard and that I have to get out. But that's healthy. Like it's okay to cry. It's okay to like ugly cry and sob. At least that's what I tell myself.
No, it is. It is. I was just thinking.
It's all part of the human experience, and I think people are so afraid to feel those feelings, to feel loss, to feel pain, to feel sad. But I'll tell you, there's pain either way. And so you have to really kind of consider like, what kind of pain do you want? The pain of healing from something that you had to let go of, or the pain of staying in something that like, this isn't the life you want to have, or this isn't the life you signed up for. Right.
Absolutely. And you're right. It is hard either way. It's hard to be in the newness of making a choice to leave whatever it is. And then feeling, oh, this is ground I've never walked on. And this is a version of me that hasn't existed until now. And getting to know yourself at that moment and how things change. I mean, you and I have talked about this a lot recently, where I'm coming back into musical theater. And so I'm just training really hard. And it's one thing to be like, oh yeah, like I have natural talent and I have training from before, but I'm like super duper rusty. And so when I go to dance class or when I sing stuff that's, maybe a little bit harder than I thought it was going to be, or if I go to acting class and get my ass kicked, which is every week now, it is extremely humbling. So even though like this is the choice I wanted to make, and I was like so excited and am so excited, it is extremely humbling when you decide to choose to leave a situation to pursue another one. So yeah, it is hard on the other side, whether you chose it or not. It's going to be hard.
It's hard either way. Yep. And that speaks to comfort zones. So much of this has to do with like being willing to step outside your comfort zone. And only you can decide, like, is the reality that I'm living in something I really choose for myself that's serving my greatest and highest good? Or am I staying because of fear of the unknown, stepping out of my comfort zone, maybe being a student again in some way, like having to learn and, fall on your ass a few times, which is like hard for us, right? Like, I mean, we all have a little bit of an ego. Like nobody really likes falling on their ass, but.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, I think that's exactly what's happened to me too. It's just, I'm like, wow, my ego is like, do you know what would be so much easier? Doing what we used to do. Why don't we just do what we've been doing? That's so much easier. We're so good at that. Why are we doing this? It's like, you'll give yourself so many excuses. I've actually given myself the excuse of, you're too old. I'm like, no, I'm not. But okay, that's new. It's amazing when you get out of your comfort zone, what your ego will throw at you. And you're like, oh, wow, maybe I should just have an easier life and like not pursue what I really want to do in whatever context that is, whether that's finding the love of your life, leaving your job, leaving a spiritual practice, whatever. It is a lot to be a beginner. And that's how I feel right now, is like, I have that beginner's mind and everything. I'm just like, God, I thought I was so smart. And now I feel so young, so beginner. Let's talk about limiting beliefs then.
Just speaking to what you were saying about being the student or the forever student is, there's a saying that's like, if you're not uncomfortable, then you're not growing.
Oh yeah.
And so it's just good to remember that, like, life isn't really just about being comfortable. Like that's nice sometimes, right? Like you've worked really hard and now you have a break and you can like be in your sweats and watch Netflix. Like that's comfortable. That's nice. But like, would you want to be in your sweats watching Netflix every day? Like all day, every day?
No,
I mean,
we experienced
maybe,
that
but
with
no.
quarantine, and that was
No,
awful.
exactly. Like in life, like we get lit up when we're growing. And even though that's hard and that's scary and everything else, like if, the discomfort comes with a huge reward. So remembering not to just, go for the comfort. But so limiting beliefs, I think how this applies to what we're talking about, there's a few, I think I had mentioned, even just the belief that like, oh, I'm 36 and like I have kids, like who's going to want to date me? And I'm here to tell all the ladies out there, again, not advocating for everyone to leave your husband tomorrow, but it has not been an issue. Like I have had great luck on dates and like, I'm shocked, like, and maybe I shouldn't be this shocked, but like nobody cares that I have kids, or at least I guess people who are swiping on me don't care that I have kids, right? Or they're happy that I have kids and they're like, that's something they're signing up for, whatever. I'm not saying I'm going to be in a super serious committed relationship anytime soon. But that's the other fun thing about dating, like post-divorce or post-separation is like, and I've said this on dates before, I'm like, I get to date just to date. Like I have my kids, I've been married. I am not dating on a mission. I'm dating to get to know people. And like, if and when something organically turns into something more, awesome. But, I don't have an agenda. I don't have a timeline. Like it's just however it flows. And I think that is such a great place to be. I get to be selective with who I spend my time with. And I think in the beginning, of course, there's that ego fear of like, do I look okay? Are they going to like me? Yada, yada. And I mean, that's still there, but now I'm kind of flipping the script and being like, well, do I like them? Do I think they're worth my time? And like, not from like a mean place, but just like, I get to really choose what I put into my basket right now. Yeah. And I'm having discernment with what that looks like. So limiting belief, dating. Sorry, we're going to say something.
I was just going to say, I think anyone who's dating should always be questioning, are these people, good enough for me, and really honoring your worth. So like not at any other time. It always, all times.
Yeah. Well, that's true. Cause like, I think that speaks to maybe some of the stuff that changed throughout my marriage is like, I got married in my 20s and maybe I didn't know, what my own needs were, like
did
maybe
we know what our needs were in our 20s? I did not know.
Yeah.
I did not
so
know
maybe
anything.
I've come into my own a little bit more and maybe that shakes shit up, and things change and people grow and sometimes they grow apart. So there's that. Another limiting belief I think that I wanted to speak to is like, especially post separation with an ex that you have children with or whatever. A lot of people have this image of like what being separated has to look like. And I have to say, like my ex and I, we get along now more than we ever have, like probably in years. And we have become really close friends, like we talk about stuff and we're kind to each other and supportive of each other. And like, we have family dinners with the kids once a week. And we've actually taken a vacation together, which was planned before we separated. But,
yes, they're not that close.
We're not like planning future vacations together, but there was already one in the books and we decided to go on it. And this has been, again, like the limiting belief of like, if I walk away from this or if we decide to part ways, now we're going to be on enemy lines. And now we're going to be, like, whatever. Like, it doesn't have to be that way. And I think as a society, we've kind of accepted that, like, you separate and then the ex is an asshole and, like, fuck them and then, but, like, it really doesn't have to be that way. I know that there are going to be people, if you're walking away from a relationship, you have no choice in the matter. They're going to be the way they are. But I also think that a lot of people, if you treat them with respect, they'll treat you with respect. If you continue to have conversation about how you would like it to look like and like, continue to offer the olive branch and try, I mean, it's not going to be perfect. We've had bumps in the road, but I think both of us know that the other person has the best of intentions and isn't trying to mess with each other or whatever. So again, limiting belief there, like it doesn't have to be doom and gloom and like bad relations and stuff like that, just because you walk away from a relationship.
Right.
And I would even relate this like in the workplace. Like I have walked away from a job and there was some bad blood in the beginning, but like my very first mentor, Philippe, hi Philippe, it was a little uncomfortable for a year or two after, but like we're great friends now. And like we talk regularly. I'm having happy hour with him on Tuesday. And, so sometimes it's like you have to leave the toxic thing to have a better relationship with whoever or whatever it is, you've probably seen that in families too. Sometimes taking the space from a family member, when you do reconnect, it can actually be a better connection because now you've set boundaries, you've set the tone of what you're willing and not willing to put up with, and they can choose to be in your life under your terms or not, so
right.
all of those things.
Boundaries are such a huge part of living a healthy life. And for, those of you who are, using boundaries in your lives, obviously, Stephanie and I, we live our life by that. It's difficult when you're, putting boundaries for yourself with others who just don't want to take them. They don't want to acknowledge them. They think that's crazy. Like, nope, I'm going to get my way. So especially if you are leaving a relationship or something with another human, it's a human kind of relationship. Just really making sure those boundaries are up there is really important in creating a happier ending. And it's true. I think that I used to be for sure one of those people who thought like, oh, I can never go back. And it didn't matter what it was. Like usually with jobs for some weird, then I figured out. Then I put it together years later. I was like, oh, I understand why I didn't like to go back to anything. Got it. But once I actually healed that, and you were there, I had a concert at my old high school, and it was a very healing experience for me. And it was because of what happened at my high school that I suddenly, created this neuro pathway in my brain saying like, you can never go back. But I actually chose to go back, and it was a wonderfully healing experience. And now I do, whenever I feel that little twinge of like, oh no, I don't need to go back, or, oh no, that's scary. Like, I don't want to go back. I actually kind of think like, am I scared because that's just a reflex, or is it really going to be a bad situation? And sometimes, yeah, they are, and that. But I think that's a really good thing to remember, that if you leave something, that doesn't mean it's forever. It doesn't have to be black and white always. And I think that's a really good note.
I love that point. And you did amazing in that performance, by the way. And you looked amazing. But it's so true. And I think that's like, part of our evolution as people is to like understand that the gray area. I think we do like to put things in like boxes, and it's all or nothing. You stay or you leave. Like, it's like black and white. And so much of life is so much more complicated than that. And I think if you're able to be like, live in the discomfort of the gray and be more in flow with how life is and how things are, then you like find yourself in like a better situation. And speaking to like, how you were saying, I forget the wording you used, but I just lost my train of thought.
That's okay.
Hold on. I literally just had.
It happens on Zoom. I swear.
Totally happens. Okay, moving on.
Okay.
Sorry.
What is the next topic of?
I remembered it.
Oh, good. Go for it.
Okay. It was something you said about being intentional. And I guess the point that I'm trying to make is to try to make your bigger choices from a proactive place versus a reactive place. Mm-hmm. So when you're deciding between two worlds, essentially, you have to be intentional to think about creating the life that you want versus living in reaction to what you don't want, or in fear of like the unknown and all that. So I guess to really, like, if you're struggling to make these kind of bigger decisions, just to really sit down and think about, what kind of life do you want? What kind of life do you deserve? If you're talking like relationship, especially romantic relationship, the thing I kept coming back to is like, I deserve to be loved a certain way at some point in my life. you know?
Yeah.
And my ex loves me. Like, I know he does. But at the same token, I'm like, there's a love out there that like, I feel like I deserve. And, you know, I'm willing to trust that like it's out there somewhere, you know?
That's such an important point, because I think that I go back and forth on this. I'm a hopeless romantic with life, right? I really do believe in going after your dreams and living, I don't want to say a fairy tale life, but really living your life like a movie. And you can really go after stuff. Does it mean it will end perfectly and like, you know, like a movie? No, not necessarily. But I really think that if you keep in mind, like what you just said, like I really deserve to be loved the way that I've been waiting to be loved, or I really deserve to have the kind of career that I've always dreamt of having. Maybe that doesn't mean doing the thing you always thought you would do, but maybe it's something else, but it's the feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm so fulfilled. I'm so happy. Like, this is why I'm here. I'm living my dharma. I'm living my purpose. And keeping that in mind, because wow, so many of us are settling for things because we're so scared that maybe that thing we hope we can have, the love, the career, the whatever it is, maybe that doesn't exist. And that, I think, again, it just goes right back to that fear thing, is like, well, maybe I'll never get it. Like, what would you say to someone if they were like, well, maybe I'll never get it? Like, maybe it's just not in the cards for me.
I mean, I'm just, like you said, a hopeless romantic about life. And so I think that the life that you deserve and that you desire is out there. And let's say hypothetically it isn't. Wouldn't you rather be continuing to put yourself out there to aim for the life that you want versus to settle for the life that you don't? And this may be different strokes for different folks. Like for me, I rather be the optimist that says there's always going to be better out, like something better. I can always improve my life somehow, or there's an opportunity that I just haven't received yet, or there's a person I just haven't met yet. And to have this sort of like almost like curiosity about life, and to have your eyes wide open and looking for like all the good that can be out there, versus the pessimistic, like closed, oh, this is good as good as it gets. You know, which again goes back to limiting beliefs. Like, do you believe there's not enough love to go around? Do you believe there's not enough money to go around? Do you believe there's not enough, you know, friends or success or whatever it is? Like those are limiting beliefs. And there's abundant, like it's never ending. The amount of love in the world is never ending. The amount of money is never ending. Are you going to go through peaks and valleys and times that you have more money, times that you have less money? Absolutely. But you know, I'm a believer that like there's more than enough for everybody. So
right.
Yeah,
and I think when you're going through those peaks and valleys, when you're in like a slower place, a deeper valley, you know, something I've been reminding myself too is like when those things happen, it isn't always necessarily your fault. You know, it's not like, oh, this is my karma, or, oh, I made this happen. Not always. Sometimes it's just life. It just happens, you know? I mean, we're still going through a pandemic. Like, that's none of our faults. It's really not. But, you know, I mean, like, I know I certainly got a little wacky during the quarantine too. And I was like, no, this is my fault. I should have prepared more. And like, nobody could have. Coming. Yeah. We had a lot of talks about that. I wanted to talk about control, because I think this could really keep people from moving forward to doing the things that they want to do, is because they want to control the situation. And I bring that up because, you know, you and I are both talking about like, maybe you go for what you want, like maybe you shoot for the moon, but you land amongst the stars instead of actually reaching the moon. That's fine. Like, I still think that's great, because I always think you're propelling yourself in the right direction because your heart tells you to go there. Now, does that mean that you're going to get exactly what you aim for? Not always. You know, it would almost be creepy if you did, like super, super eerie. And if you think back to any time in your life, I bet you very few times you were like, oh, wow, I got exactly what I wanted. Most of it comes back or comes to you at different times in different ways than you never could have imagined, that you never could have controlled or planned. So I know that people are, and I can be, of course, it's not everyone else, not me. I've never experienced control issues.
I don't have control issues.
I am not told that I have control issues every time I go to acting class every week. No, it's never me. Clearly I'm working on that. But, even when you think you are being more relaxed, we are trying to control situations. And so when we want to move forward and we want to control the way that looks, sometimes I swear you shoot yourself in the foot. You do. Yeah. You just make it harder. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that we sacrifice a lot of our well-being for this desire for certainty and control. It goes back to like staying in certain situations because it's like the known versus the unknown. And so when we talk about control, and control issues get a bad name. Like you said, we all have them, right? Mm-hmm. Like we all want to know for the most part, like how we're getting to work in the morning and, all of that stuff.
Right. This isn't about being some hyper type A. Like I'm not a hyper type A. I just like planning. I'm a planner, but that's it.
Yes. I think what's important to note is that none of us really have control. Like we can control certain elements, and that makes us feel like we have a greater sense of control than we do. I like to think about people who don't let go of the bad job because it's consistent and certainty and money and all the things, but then they get laid off out of nowhere, right? Mm-hmm. So like, even when we think we have control, there's so much beyond our control that I try to remind myself of that is like, even the little bit of certainty that I hold on to, that I grasp onto with dear life, like, even that's uncertain, So I think it's just, again, at the end of the day, not living reactive to those needs and being aware of it too. Because a lot of times we're not even conscious of the fact that we're signing up for a bad situation, or we're signing up for, a life that's less than what we deserve, for the need of that certainty and the need of that control. So once you can look at it and that's where like self-reflection comes in and coaching comes in and therapy comes in, so that someone can really help you open and hold up a mirror to yourself to say, well, why do you keep choosing that over and over again? Because what you're not changing, you're choosing, right? Mm-hmm. So if you wake up every day and you're in the same relationship or the same job or the same house or wherever, you're waking up and choosing that every single day. So why do you keep choosing that? And so it's just good to have the self-awareness so that you can dissect it and look at it for what it is, and to remind yourself that, again, none of us actually have control. So if you're going to trust in the flow and the waves of the universe or whatever you believe in, to not throw caution to the wind and have no plan, but to be willing to take the risk for a life that you really want to create. We only live once, unless you believe in reincarnation, but we're only going to be this person once, and we're only going to be in this life once. So, what do you have to lose? Really, like your comfort, like your complacency, your predictability, which is, again, not totally predictable anyways. There could be an earthquake tomorrow. You can lose your job tomorrow. Like there could be a car crash. Like so many things can shake that up anyways. So I feel like you might as well shake it up yourself and do it under your terms,
Absolutely. If you don't make the change, it will be made for you.
True. How many times does the universe give you that little push that's way more uncomfortable than doing it on your terms, right?
Absolutely. So if you want to control anything, you can control like when you decide to make the change, like
totally.
Ooh. Well, this was amazing. Do you have anything to add that we haven't already talked about?
I guess last point about control and all those things is that it also comes down to and the peaks and valleys. It also comes down to people thinking that their external situations need to be perfect in order for them to be happy. Oh, and so I guess I would just leave you with the thought that you can be happy through the peaks and valleys, knowing that like for every valley, there's going to be a peak, and for every peak, there's going to be a valley. And it doesn't have to like completely destroy you when things don't work out the way that you wanted. And I think if you take on that attitude, then you'll be more willing to keep trying and keep growing and keep taking risks that are going to get you closer to the life you actually want to live.
I love that. Thank you, Stephanie Hamadto.
Thanks for having me.
Aw, thanks for coming back. You'll just come back forever and ever. Tell people how they can find you.
You can find me at stephaniehamadto.com. You'll probably put it on the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, just click the links on the bottom.
Okay.
It's fine.
And you can find me on Instagram at Style and Smile.
Perfect. Well, thank you, lady. I'll see you soon.
Thank you. See you later. Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. Remember, sharing is caring. Make sure to rate the podcast and leave a review. We really rely on this to help get the podcast out there. Also, make sure to watch the video version on YouTube at That Girl the Podcast.